I just love seeing all these wonderful faces come on stream and looking at you and tuning into you, and also tuning into the energy field we create together. After almost a year now of the Master Manifestors Club, we have a really powerful energy field, and I can just feel the energy when we begin one of these calls. Also, when we're doing a process like meditation, when I meditate in the morning, I first of all am very focused on being quiet, being still, and tuning into my own energy. But then once I've tuned into the universe, I focus on everyone else meditating now. I feel such a sense of connection with all of you, and as they're all meeting in this grand universal place. So it's wonderful to feel that way. You also never feel lonely. You're never alone. One of the really sad studies I read a few years back was done by a researcher called Stephen Harper, and he looked at the effect of loneliness on gene expression. And because, of course, I am very focused on epigenetics, I wondered what he'd find. And he found that in a large scale, long-term study, that people who are lonely have have a much higher burden of disease. They have more of all the major diseases, and they die quite a bit sooner. Loneliness actually kills people. The feeling of disconnection, the feeling there's no one else there for you, it literally increases your chances of getting sick and not making it. And of course, if we are in a community, then we are counteracting that. And even when we are together, we are able to be in that place together in spirit and energy. I also been looking at the research on Tibetan monks, and there's very interesting research that compares the brain changes among monks who meditate alone. They're in their monastery, they're in their cave, they're in their cell, and they're meditating alone. And the brain changes that happen in their brains after 10,000 hours of meditation, roughly 10 years, 4 hours a day of meditation. Then the monks that meditate for 20,000 hours and 30,000 hours and 40,000 hours. And what researchers find is that those monks who meditate in groups have more substantial brain changes than those that meditate alone. So as we meditate together, as we connect with each other in this energy field, we're entering this place. When I meditate in the morning, actually, I imagine myself surrounded by people, by guidance, by all these wonderful beings. And so you never feel alone. When I'm driving, I've long since quit using the radio. Instead, I just tune in to my guidance and the energy field of the universe. And it's wonderful then to feel as though you're one with all of that wisdom, all of that understanding, all of that creativity, all of that power. It's a whole different experience. So I know I used to turn the dial and turn on National Public Radio and listen to the news or listen to a talk show or an analysis or commentary show. But I have to say I'm much happier now. Not turning on the radio and just being there in silence and tuning in to the all that is. That's the real news, is the news of the universe. The real news is what's going on in the psychosphere, in the noosphere, in the sphere of consciousness. That's what's really exciting. What's happening in the news? Just there's some kind of problem, there's some kind of upset, there's some kind of way of capturing our attention every day, and that thing gets solved. Brexit ends, and then suddenly it's going to be, actually this is for real. So finally, Brexit ended. Brexit was all done, and then the headline in The Economist was, "Now with this problematic country gone, who is the European Union's next most problematic member?" Think about that. The problem child is now gone. So who's the next candidate for the problem child? We've solved one problem. Now let's look around and find another problem to focus on right away. And that's how human beings are. And that's how human brains work. We're looking for the next thing to focus on, and it's not making us happy. We'll solve that problem, then there'll be another problem after that. So for those of you who began in month 1, the theme of the coming month is inhabiting audacious goals. And we worked on formulating audacious goals. And we worked in that month on actually stating your goals and then noticing parts of self that stand up and say, I'm not sure about that. I'm ambivalent about that. I want to buy a house. I really want to own a house and be a homeowner. Well, maybe it's the top of the market. Maybe my mortgage will be underwater in 6 months or 2 years. Maybe I'll lose my down payment as a result. Maybe I won't be able to afford it. So there are all these other voices. There's the part that wants to buy the house, the part that is ambivalent about buying the house, part that's afraid of money, parts that's afraid of the economy. There's always stuff, and there are always all these parts of us competing for our attention. So this month's focus is on really inhabiting those goals. It's not enough to formulate them. You have to really settle into them. I was thinking about a time when I had to do that. And I remember when I was 35 years old, I had just taken over a large book company, and there had been a lot of turmoil in this company over the previous few years. They'd gone through 4 CEOs in 2 years. They'd gone up, they'd gone down. They were basically in a really tough situation financially. And so finally, I got this job that basically no one else wanted. I walked into that office in the corner of this building, and the sign on the door said CEO. Well, at 37 years old, 35 years old, I didn't feel like a CEO. I didn't feel like I was up to the challenge at hand. I hadn't inhabited that title of CEO or that role of CEO yet. It took me a long time to settle into that. So sure, I had the aspiration, I had the job, but then to really inhabit that job took me a while. Then again, I was in book publishing for like most of 20 years. And then eventually I got my first big idea for a book, and I thought I would actually write my own book. Now, writing my own book was definitely a big stretch for me because I wasn't an author. I saw myself as a publisher. In the publishing industry, the person with the title of publisher is the business manager. They're not up front. They're the guy in the back behind the curtain pulling the strings. And so I had a very hard time inhabiting that role of author. And I remember when I was doing my first few keynote speeches as an author, I'd stand up there on stage. There'd be a lot of people in the audience. I'd do my talk, and then they'd start applauding. And I'd want to just walk away as soon as possible. And I bet you've seen speakers, when they get a round of applause, they like move their hands like this, like, let's just tap down that applause. Let's clamp down on that applause. They can't receive it, and so they're trying to actually make it go away. They're not able to absorb the appreciation, receive the appreciation of the audience. And so you have to inhabit it. And that was me the first few years, unable to inhabit that role of author. Now I stand up, I give a talk, and people applaud. Sometimes I get a standing ovation. And I stand there and I look them in the eye, put my hands over my heart, and I really receive the energy. I've given a lot of energy in the talk. Now it's my time to receive that energy as well. And so that's what I do. I receive the energy that people are giving me. I'm inhabiting that role of author and speaker. So as I'm speaking now, as I'm sharing these examples, I want you to think about times in your life when you've had trouble inhabiting your roles, inhabiting your goals. You want to be well, and yet you don't really know what being well would look like or feel like. And when you think about being well, it might seem unreal to you. You might think about having a certain amount of money. Maybe you want to say have a retirement fund with $100,000 in it. And so you think about that money, and you can't really inhabit looking at that statement of that retirement account, and it says $100,000. Maybe you are focused on a relationship, and you want a relationship, you want love in your life, and yet part of you is unable to really imagine that viscerally. I know when I met Christine, my wife, and if any of you, I'd encourage you to be on our webinar tomorrow afternoon, because we'll be doing it together. And I know that when I was with Christine 10 years ago for the first year, I had a lot of trouble inhabiting the role of being loved that deeply. I've been used to being loved that much, or maybe even that much, but not that much. And so it really took a while for me to settle into and inhabit that role of being loved a lot. Being with Christine is like drinking from the fire hose. You get a ton of love. And it took me a long time to really settle into the role of accepting that. So think about this in the context of your life and where you have a challenge really stepping in there. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's not as though you're a defective person. It's not as though your goals aren't appropriate. It's fine for it to take you a while to inhabit those audacious goals. But just know that it's worth being aware of those parts of self that are arguing with them, that are struggling with them, that are having difficulty with them, that are ambivalent about them, and then being patient with those parts of yourself. It took me about a year to settle into really absorbing and receiving Christine's love. It took me about a year, maybe 2 years, to stand there on stage and absorb the audience's appreciation without feeling as though I couldn't really inhabit that role. In each area of your life, it might take you a while, and it might take tapping, it might take releasing, it might take personal work, it might take therapy, it might take meditation, but just give yourself time to shift into that place and notice the parts of self that aren't on board. You don't have to get rid of them. You don't have to make them go away. You just have to love them. And that's why with EFT, the magic formula is, even though this part of me isn't on board with this amount of love, even though this part of me isn't on board with this amount of money, or in the case of a speaker, even though this part of me has a lot of trouble accepting the appreciation from the audience, I deeply and completely accept myself. So it's a process, and you'll find as you tap, as you meditate, you're then able to fully inhabit at a certain point those audacious goals. So if you have had a thought, a memory, an idea come up as I'm sharing about this, please do let me know what it is. It could be a time when you really were able to inhabit a goal, inhabit a role, or it could be some role or goal you're still struggling with. You aren't fully able to settle into yet. Either of those is fine. Either something you've done that really you were able to settle into, or some part of your life that feels as though it's in flux, that maybe there are voices saying yes, other voices saying no. You aren't quite sure of which is which and where you'll settle out at eventually. But that process is perfect, and holding yourself is perfect in the process. Holding the process is perfect when it's incomplete is a powerful piece of personal growth work. We are all incomplete people. We are all moving on to a different phase of life. Once you complete that thing, maybe you have that $100,000 retirement account, or you have that marriage, or you have become that speaker. Then you may decide you'd like to be something else. We're always evolving. That's the beauty of consciousness, the beauty of being human. So as I've been talking here, just think about those parts of yourself and either share a time when you stepped in and inhabited a role or a goal, or one you're ambivalent about right now. And again, as always in these calls, you'll get that little intuitive nudge saying, you're meant to speak now. Just unmute yourself by clicking at the bottom corner of your screen, and then that will unmute you and you can share. So please feel free to share now.
I'd love to share one, Dawson.
Yes, Suzanne.
So I have a current goal, which is to put love on a billboard. I don't know if you've seen this movement in the States, but it was started by a man called John in Spokane, Washington. And he did some soul searching and realized he wanted to bring more love to the world. So he invested $950 of his own dollars to put a huge billboard up that was red that just said LOVE. And then what happened is people saw it, and it started to spread. And to date, I think there are 80 of them across the States. But in my city where I live in Christchurch, New Zealand, next month is the anniversary of a mass shooting that was very, very traumatic. And 51 people were killed in mosques here. And so a friend and I had the idea to put love on a billboard in Christchurch to honor the movement that started in the States, but also just because to tune people into love. But so this is challenging for me. I have no experience in business. I don't know how to do things. So that comes up for me, is the fear of like, I don't know how. And also, like, it's quite expensive to do this. It's like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to do this. But I had the vision of, we have electronic billboards here, and I had the vision of just on the day, them lighting up all over the city with the word love, and also putting up a static billboard. So it feels like an audacious goal, in the sense that I don't know if anyone, we're going to start a fund it campaign online, but I don't know if anyone will donate to it. And if they, or it may be like nobody donates, or it may be that it becomes overly big and lots of people donate, and it may be that we have to talk to the press or whatever. So it's all just kind of a bit unknown and a bit overwhelming, but kind of exciting.
I love those two conflicting voices. Maybe no one will donate. Maybe a lot of people will donate. It'll become overwhelming. So you have these two ends of the spectrum, and it could be too small, could be too big. And so those are two different voices going on there. And so as...
Oh, I've lost your sound. I can't hear you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I muted myself there when you were talking. Okay, so what's so fun here is that you have these two different voices. One is saying that maybe no one will donate if I put the word out there for funds, and maybe too many people will donate. I'll be overwhelmed with money. It'll become too big. It'll become unmanageable. And so you have these two voices that, you know, what if this happens? What if that happens? And that's just so interesting that we human beings have to hold these dichotomies. In fact, research shows that the most successful decision makers can hold mutually exclusive opposite ideas in their heads at the same time. And that's part of the most creative people's abilities. So yeah, you're holding it there. I'm just curious what you feel in your body as you're talking about this.
I have a sense of excitement, and the other piece of it is I want to create a guided meditation that the people that donate money will get, which has, and this is like, I'm sure arising out of the work that you've been doing with us, but which is to get people in their imaginations to envision love on every billboard, but also to envision love on the billboards that say McDonald's or anything else that they say. So you see a billboard, any old billboard, and then in your imagination, you just put love onto it, or see love. So no matter what's being advertised, there's just love, love, love everywhere. And that's kind of like what you're talking about, like hold the dichotomy of like, I might not like McDonald's, but I might like love. So it's kind of like love and McDonald's, you know, loving it all.
Reinterpret whatever's up there as love. And have you shared this with people?
Just beginning to, like, we have 100 likes on a Facebook page. It's me and my dog walker friend, Leslie, are doing it. So it's very, very humble endeavor, but yeah, just beginning. We've got a month to get it together.
When is that anniversary you're shooting for?
It's the 15th of March.
Okay. Have you taken any concrete steps, like just getting the cost of a billboard?
Yeah, I went to meet with the billboard company yesterday, and the guy was talking about, you know, it was actually really sweet because he started getting tears in his eyes when I was describing the vision of what we wanted to do. And he was kind of quite a salesman, you know, kind of in a big body or whatever, but I could tell that something in his heart resonated with the project. So he was going to find the boards that weren't being used and give us a special price on those. So yeah.
Wow. So you've got an ally now in the billboard business. And again, you didn't convince him up here, you touched him over here.
Yeah, and what I want mostly, rather than like making a lot of money, I don't really care if it's hugely funded or a little bit funded, but what I want mostly is for a lot of people to be touched by the idea of it and donate maybe a little bit of money here and there, so that there's just, so that what touched me and the man who did it in Spokane, Washington, what touched my heart gets shared elsewhere, and then somebody else picks that up and shares it, you know, so the heart, it really is a heart thing.
Yeah, and it certainly makes people mindful and reminds them of that. I know that they're at one of the retreat centers I teach at, there's a big set of neon signs on the side of the hill nearby, and they're like 10-foot high letters, and they say things like awareness, love, consciousness. And when they turn them on at night, it's like, whoa, okay. Suddenly everyone's more conscious.
Yeah.
So it really works to do that. Well, let's just take a couple of deep breaths and really appreciate what Susanna has shared with us here. It's powerful that you've had this vision and that you're now taking concrete steps. And as you're taking concrete steps, things are opening up on the material level. So let's take some deep breaths and really stand with you in your intention here to awaken people to this consciousness of love. So we'll just all breathe together. Let's also imagine obstacles being released. To allow this to move forward as far and as fast as the universe wants it to go. Let's tap together and have a round of releasing any and every energy obstacle to our goals. Because there are material obstacles, but they're often surmountable. It's the energy obstacles that we can release. So the affirmation is, I now release any and every energy obstacle to my vision.
Do I repeat that?
Yes, please.
I now release any and every energy obstacle to my vision.
I now release any obstacle in the energy field.
I now release any obstacle in the energy field
that stands between me and effortless manifestation.
stands between me and effortless manifestation.
And I inhabit my audacious goals.
And I inhabit my audacious goals.
Joyfully and creatively.
Joyfully and creatively.
Tap on the top of your head, release.
Release.
Eyebrow point, release.
Release.
Side of eyes, release.
Release.
Under eyes, release.
Release.
Under nose, release.
Release.
Chin, release.
Release.
Collarbone, release.
Release.
Underarm, release.
Release.
And I now visualize any and every energy obstacle
And I visualize any and every obstacle
being released.
being released.
Take a deep breath. Any kind of a shift for you, Susanna, as we tapped on that?
It feels more exciting and fun and playful.
Good. You want to make it playful, because if it's drudgery, sweat, effort, why bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so glad. Well, let us know next month, because it'll next month we'll be talking again. What's happened in the ensuing month?
I will.
Hmm. Okay, deep breath, and then Nadine, you posted in chat about feeling called to do talks, but then you get doubtful of your abilities to do that. Unmute yourself and tell us more about that. Actually, I just unmuted you manually, so your audio is now live.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes, so I am a registered nurse and I'm studying at the same time to become a coach. And so I guess I know that the next step to get clients and to move my business forward is to get out there and talk to people and do talks about the coaching that I want to do. But I have these blocks that just like I'll get all this motivation and I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I need to do. But then when it comes time to start putting the steps down and making a move towards my goal, I just I don't know, these blocks come up and I end up doubting myself. Fear, lots of fear.
And where in your body do you feel that fear?
Well, even just talking about it, I could feel it in my stomach for sure.
And what does it look like? What shape is it? What color is it? How big is it?
Looks like dark spots, like blotches, round blotches in my abdomen.
Are they stationary? Are they moving?
It moves slowly, like it's not stationary. It's moving. It's like slowly morphing, but it's not. It's not stuck in one spot. It moves a little bit.
So let's play around with the whole idea of loving the fear. It's a paradox, but it's a very productive one often to tap on. So tap on the side of your hand point and let's have a little talk with that fear in your abdomen. And Nadine, just say to the fear, you've been doing your best to protect me.
You've been doing your best to protect me.
You've been doing your best to take care of me.
You've been doing your best to take care of me.
And I have other ways of taking care of myself now.
And I have other ways of taking care of myself now.
And I release you from that responsibility.
And I release you from that responsibility.
So tapping over here on the top of your head, releasing you.
We are releasing you.
I have other ways of taking care of myself.
I have other ways of taking care of myself.
I appreciate the work you've done for me.
I appreciate the work you've done for me.
I appreciate how hard you've tried.
I appreciate how hard you've tried.
And I have other resources now.
And I have other resources now.
I have many other resources now.
I have many other resources now.
I have all the resources of a professional.
I have all the resources of a professional.
A highly trained person.
A highly trained person.
And an adult.
And an adult.
I have all these resources now.
I have all these resources now.
And they're working for me.
And they're working for me. Okay,
so when you think of your inner resources, what do you think of first in terms of your abilities, your strengths, your skills, your ability to serve the people that you'd be coaching?
Well, I know I work with people all day long, helping them with their problems. That's what I do. I'm a trained nurse, so I already have that as, I've got that experience behind me. It's just that to actually get myself organized and to be the one person in front of a bunch of people, I think that's probably where things are different, because it's new and it's not I'm not relying on my experience at this point. It would be a completely new environment, so that's where I think the difficulty probably comes up.
And is there a way you could draw on what you know and your nursing background as you present yourself?
Yes, I think absolutely. I think that's probably what I'm going to have to draw on, exactly that energy of that security of knowing that I can actually help people.
So imagine that being an object or an energy or an image in your field as well. What is that security of knowing that you have helped people in the past, you can help people in the future? Where does that live in your body, and what does it look like?
It feels like a big cushion, behind me, like a big support, a big yellow support cushion, that it's there. It's my support. I can depend on that. I can't hear you. I think you might have muted yourself.
Okay, so say out loud as you tap on this point over here. Yes. I have this big yellow support cushion.
I have a big yellow support cushion.
And I know it's there for me.
And I know it's there for me.
And I know I have all this competence.
And I know I have all this competence.
And I've been able to help so many people.
And I've been able to help so many people.
Top of the head, all this competence.
All this competence.
Eyebrow, big yellow support cushion.
Big yellow support cushion.
Side of eye, all this competence.
All this competence.
Under eye, big yellow support cushion.
Big yellow support cushion.
Under your nose, years of confidence.
Years of confidence.
Chin, with this cushion behind me.
With this cushion behind me.
And collarbone, and even though I have parts of me.
Even though I have parts of me.
Under your arms, that are fearful.
That are fearful.
Side of hand, I also have parts of me.
I also have parts of me.
That feel secure.
That feel secure.
Now, in your mind's eye, imagine showing those dark round blotches the support cushion, and let them see how effective that support cushion has been at taking care of you, and how much backing you have, literally, from that cushion behind you as you step out and talk to people. Let those round blotches really see and deeply understand how well the support cushion is working for you.
Yes.
So what do they do when they understand that? What do the dark blotches do when they really understand deeply how effective the support cushion is?
Well, they're shrinking. They're getting littler. And they're actually not dark as much. They're like changing color. So they're getting littler and they're becoming more bright, like not dark, blotchy. They're more sparkly colored. They seem nicer now.
I have these sparkly bright spots in my abdomen.
I have these sparkly bright spots in my abdomen.
I have this big yellow support cushion behind me.
I have this big yellow support cushion behind me.
I have a lot of knowledge and experience.
I have a lot of knowledge and experience.
I love and accept the parts of myself
I love and accept the parts of myself
that move forward confidently.
that move forward confidently.
I love and accept the parts of myself
I love and accept the parts of myself
that hang back in fear.
that hang back in fear.
They've been doing their best for me,
They have been doing their best for me,
but they're changing now.
but they're changing now.
They're getting bright and sparkly
They're getting bright and sparkly
because they understand how powerful this big yellow support cushion is.
because they understand how powerful this big yellow support cushion is.
And then, without any words at all, just tap each point, top of the head, eyebrow point, side of eye point, under eye point, under lower lip, collarbone, under your arm. So back tapping on the side of the hand point here, Nadine, and tell me, what's one concrete step you might take between today and the next call next month to actually put yourself out there in front of other people?
I think I have to find a location to begin with. And I actually had the secretary at my work. She said, because I also try to sell essential oils, which is something I really love working with a lot also. And I've talked to people a little bit, and she's like, well, whenever you want to have a talk, just let me know and we'll get a bunch of people together. So that's another way for me to actually get in front of people and, show what it is that I enjoy and teach them. So she just said, let me know when you want to do it. So basically I just have to let her know when, and she'll set it up basically. So I guess that would be one step to get in front of people.
It's a really obvious one. It's someone who's already offered, and it's easy. It's at your work. And so it's really a natural extension of what you do already.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And how long after you talk to her and you pick a date, how long might that time frame be? Would the date be a week from the time you talk to her, or a month, or 6 months, or what would the time frame be?
I could probably talk to her for Friday, because we're Wednesday. I could probably do it for the end of this week or next week, actually.
So you could talk to her on Friday?
No, talk to her like tomorrow and
Okay.
get her to set up a lunch meeting with everybody, and then I could just go for it at lunchtime on Friday or the beginning of next week.
And so when you visualize now standing there in the room at work, there are these people looking at you. Well, first of all, let's just, we're looking at you on this call, and I want everyone on the call just.
Oh, I think you muted yourself again.
Yeah, I keep hitting the wrong button there when I click my screen. Okay, so I'd like us on the call here, if you're on video or if you can turn on your video, I'd like to actually look at Nadine. Now, Nadine isn't visible. I don't know if you can turn on your video, Nadine, but if you can, do. If you can't, no problem.
Okay, there.
Good, okay. And so we're all going to be the audience at this moment. And we're just going to sit here and we're going to look at you and smile at you and just be completely delighted that you're sharing this with us. So just breathe it in. A few more breaths. We're just looking at you, we're smiling at you, appreciating you, and you haven't even said a word yet.
No, I know. How lucky am I?
I don't give you a round of applause before you've even said anything.
Awesome.
We're all clapping, we're all delighted. So we're setting you up for inevitable success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That was great. That was great. Awesome.
Just breathe that in. A little bit more tapping to accept the energy, accept the love, accept the appreciation, accept the attention you're getting. Because it's kind of, a lot to deal with to have people's attention, like 20, 30, 40 sets of eyeballs on you. So just tap and visualize receiving that attention. Tap each point, top of the head point. Eyebrow point. Side of the eye point. Under the eye point. Under the nose. Chin. Really fully receiving and inhabiting that appreciation. Collarbone. Under your arms. And one more time on the side of the hand. Good. Okay, we've hit all of the acupuncture meridian endpoints now, or most of them, and really allowing those energy flows to flow powerfully in your body. So as you think now, Nadine, about talking to the secretary at work, about setting up that gathering for Friday or next week, what is your body and heart saying now?
Well, I feel pretty confident, actually. Yeah. It's good. It's like the moments before I feel I have these confident waves, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then I back off again. Well, right now I'm in I feel confident. So I've kind of like captured that wave, that high of the confidence. So I'd have to take the steps now to continue.
So let's tap in the idea of, I've captured that confidence now.
I've captured that confidence now.
I can capture it anytime I choose.
I can capture it anytime I choose.
I chose to capture that confident wave now.
I chose to capture that confident wave now.
And I can capture that wave anytime I choose.
And I can capture that wave anytime I choose.
Top of the head, it's my wave and my choice.
It's my wave and it's my choice.
I achieved this state today, I can achieve it any time.
I achieved this state today, and I can achieve it at any time.
I can achieve it anytime I choose.
I can achieve it anytime I choose.
Before I talk, I'll do a little bit of tapping.
Before I talk, I'll do a little bit of tapping.
When I stand up there, I'll be on top of the wave again.
When I stand up there, I'll be on top of the wave again.
And when I finish my talk,
And when I finish my talk,
I know I'll feel great.
I know I'll feel great.
And your arms. When I finish my talk,
When I finish my talk,
I visualize feeling great.
I visualize feeling great.
Side of the head. It hasn't even happened yet.
It hasn't even happened yet.
And yet I know I'll feel great
And yet I know that I'll feel great
at the end of that talk.
at the end of that talk.
Okay, take a deep breath. Okay. That's a really powerful thing to do, is to imagine something as being in the past. One of the really interesting things about the way our brains work is the part of the brain that handles picturing the past, imagining the past, recalling, reconstructing the past is the exact same part of our brain that does visualization about the future. And so that's why people who are obsessed with the past, people who are depressed, people who are focused on the negative stuff of the past, have a very hard time imagining a future that is positive, because they're using that part of the brain to recreate that negative past. And so if you fill that part of the brain with those visions of a positive future, you're literally squeezing out its ability to think about negative possibilities. And it's a very conscious way of using your brain.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. Yeah. So we have time for one more example or case this week. And again, if you know it's you, then you'll feel that little intuitive nudge. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
I feel a nudge.
You feel a nudge. You know, I meant to ask you too, Bev, because I know that you've done all of these talks at the Cleveland Clinic, and so I was actually going to call on you at some point if there was a space, because I mean, you've been in that position.
Sure. And also, I wanted to let Nadine Granger know about EFT being on Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation. Are you familiar with Healthy Nurse, Healthy Nation?
No, I'm not.
Oh, well, it's hnhn.org. You're a nurse, you can join. It's free. And I'm promoting tapping to teach all the nurses tapping.
Awesome.
Maybe we could talk about that offline.
Yes. Yeah, I would like that. Yes.
Okay, great. But I wanted to share that my audacious goal was something about money, you know, and my finances, and it was so uncomfortable. I couldn't, the way you spoke in the beginning about getting into it, feeling it, it felt so off. And I'm a big Teaching of Abraham person. And so having something like that just be so, I couldn't get past that. So decided to focus on something else that felt a lot better that I could get into. And so I want to really be on the payroll of Kaiser Permanente. And I just taught a course at Johns Hopkins, by the way. Called me in to do a course for breast cancer survivors. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow.
So there is a woman at Kaiser who is interested, and she's in charge of all the members. As you know, I teach in Thriving After 60 already there, but I'm a vendor. I'm not an employee, and I want to be an employee with a regular paycheck. And so I got the attention of her, and she wanted to loop in some other people and I would do a presentation to all of them. One person's in charge of the mental health, the psychological health aspect of it. Someone else is in charge of corporations, and one person in charge of employees. So this is just an amazing serendipitous story. So I started focusing on all of that. And I have a very, very old friend who is basically a psychic and a spiritual advisor, and she had a very serious, her aorta basically shredded, and she had a tremendous, I mean, she almost died, and it was a very, very tough road for her. So she called me up and just knew she had some PTSD associated with this, and she wanted to do some tapping on that. And we decided to swap, and she would do a reading for me. So she did a reading for me, and she talks about how she sees me in hospitals and corporations, and she mentions a name. And she said, let's call her Sally Smith, this person. And I just fell off my chair, and I said, what made you say that name? That person is the person who was in charge of the corporation aspect at Kaiser. And it just absolutely blew my mind. And then she mentioned that she was associated with this person many years ago, and her face just popped up in front. And so she said she would call her, even on my behalf, and she did. And the woman knew my name sounded familiar because she was included in this email for all of us to get together. So anyway, Sally and I have been communicating, and it turns out she was a holistic practitioner, and she taps. So she's very excited about, being in that meeting, and said to mention her name and tell her that she taps, tell the main person who's organizing it that she taps. And so that's what's happening next, which is pretty awesome.
That is absolutely amazing that she knew the name of the person, and that you have a very clear goal here, because you haven't had the goal of being an employee, being a salaried employee up to this point. And so that's a really clear, measurable goal. And it's just also a lot easier than just trying to make a living bit by bit, client by client. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So anyway. And then I just want to do one other little plug. I know you're promoting your course about love, you and Christine. And I had an opportunity remember when there was a whole thing about love, I think David and Donna were doing it, you and Christine were on it, a lot of other people were on it. And I participated in that. So I've gotten a tremendous amount of tips from you throughout the years about a lot of things. And I just want to share that, and this is kind of blowing my mind. The end of this month, my husband and I are going to be married 55 years. And we met in high school, and so we've been together for 60 years. And that I'm just so in awe of that. And the fact that we have some pretty challenging issues. We've had, as we've had health issues, financial issues, and we have a son who came to live with us who has Asperger's, an adult son. And despite all these interesting circumstances, we get along so well. And it is so much, I think first of all, tapping is absolutely the major reason. I have to tap a lot to just make them right, or not make them wrong, basically, and just get over my own stuff that comes up in relating to them. But it's really quite extraordinary to me, that we can just be together for so long and just be in love with each other. So I just really want to thank you and acknowledge you for the contribution that you have made to allow that to happen in our family. So,
it's a pleasure, and it's wonderful to have a satisfying long-term relationship. It's just such support and pleasure, and I'm thrilled with that story, and may you have many, many more.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bless you. Wow. So let's all put a powerful beam of energy behind Bev's vision over here of being an employee at Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente does have employees who do things like run stress reduction groups and run weight loss groups and run healthy aging groups. So they already have this format. And of course, what we can offer as practitioners is powerful in those contexts. So let's take some deep breaths together. and just picture all of the forces in the universe, all of the currents in the universe that are moving Bev's vision forward of being in Kaiser and being able to actually offer these wonderful techniques to people who are suffering, people who are afraid, people who are struggling. And imagine us all together, and every strain of energy, every thread of energy in the universe moving toward that outcome, joining to really move that possibility forward, to take that field of infinite possibilities and to collapse it into that probability of Bev being there at Kaiser as an employee to share this with people. Now let's move from energy to visualization and actually imagine Bev in Kaiser, working with people, doing presentations as an employee. Imagine how we'll feel when Bev tells us that that's happened. And imagine how Bev feels in her new role as a Kaiser employee. And then taking one last breath. Moving back fully into the here and now. And now that we've formulated these goals and these visions and pictured inhabiting them, let's surrender, because we know that the universe has its own agenda. We know that nature knows what she's doing. We know that sometimes we want things and they are unfolding in a time scale that isn't the one that we think is important. So let's just relax now and surrender. We have our intentions, we've expressed them clear. The next thing to do is to let go and just move with the flow of the universe. So we'll do one last round of tapping together. And Bev, perhaps you can be my echo over here. We'll all say this together. And let's say out loud, I now surrender.
I now surrender
To the will of the universe.
to the will of the universe.
I now surrender.
I now surrender
To the natural flow of life.
to the natural flow of life.
My intentions are clear.
My intentions are clear.
I release them now
I release them now
into the mind of the universe.
into the mind of the universe.
I release attachment
I release attachment
to everything being the way I want it to be.
to everything being the way I want it to be.
And I accept the way things are.
And I accept the way things are.
I intend
I intend
and I surrender.
and I surrender.
I intend
I intend
and I surrender.
and I surrender.
I intend
I intend
and I surrender.
and I surrender.
I intend
I intend
and I surrender.
and I surrender.
Intention and surrender.
Intention and surrender.
Surrender and intention.
Surrender and intention.
Intention is perfect
Intention is perfect
and surrender is perfect.
and surrender is perfect.
I both have clear intentions
I have clear intentions
and I surrender completely.
and I surrender completely.
Okay, take a deep breath. And then as we close, let's visualize this circle of intention joining us all. It's an invisible circle. We can't see it. It isn't one that we can measure, but it's very real. And so let's now picture all the love, all of the intention, all of the consciousness that joins us all, and spend a few moments and take 3 deep breaths as we really inhabit this energy field of our intentions, and as we see them moving ahead, as we see the thing complete, also surrendering all attachment to the results. So 3 breaths to end with. Deep 6-second in breaths, 6-second out breaths, just like in our meditations. And on this last out breath, we open our eyes, we bring ourselves fully back into the present moment, and we enjoy this circle of connection. We aren't lonely. We're one with each other. We're one with the universe. When we meditate every morning, we're one with the millions of people who are meditating at that same time. So I celebrate this sense of oneness. I celebrate this community. I celebrate you. I celebrate your intentions. And I know that as we are in this space together, we tune in, we receive from the universe, we intend, and we surrender, and life unfolds in perfection. So thank you so much for being part of this call. Watch your inbox for the next month's meditation, the next month's tapping script. Meditate regularly, because again, research shows that it's that regular meditation that really moves the needle. Go back if there are any other meditations you feel aren't quite complete. Do use the tapping scripts first to release resistance, then meditate again. Like if you find that there's one part of the program you did maybe 2 months or 3 months ago you weren't complete with, it's fine to go back and just review that. And so you really are moving forward powerfully with the whole momentum of what we're doing here together. So it's wonderful to connect. I so appreciate everyone here. I feel in my heart, I feel empowered, I feel inspired. Thank you so much, and we'll connect again next month. Thanks again.